The encounter. The wind on the barren planet carried dust like tiny blades, cutting across the empty ruins of what once looked like a colony. The ground was cracked, buildings broken, and silence spread like a shadow. Only the sound of his boots echoed as he walked through the remains, his hand always near the old rifle hanging by his side. His name was Kale, a drifter, a man who once fought wars but now only searched forgotten places for scraps of metal and fuel. The galaxy had no place for soldiers when peace came, and yet peace never truly came. It only changed its shape. So Kale moved from world to world, always alone, always searching. That day, he expected nothing more than silence and junk. But as he turned into a half-broken hall, he froze. On the ground, against the wall of shattered glass, lay someone. It was a woman, pale, her body weak, her clothes strange, not like any miner or settler. Her chest rose and fell faintly, as if she was holding on to life by a thin thread. But what made him stop was not just that she was alive, but the faint glow on her wounds, a soft light like silver fire under her skin. Kale's first thought was simple: trouble. Wherever she came from, whoever left her here, it was not something he wanted to get caught in. And yet as he stood there, he saw her hand move weakly, trying to reach for something, then fall. Something inside him moved, the part of him that still remembered saving lives instead of just surviving. He knelt beside her, checked her pulse. It was weak but steady. Her eyes opened just a little, dark, calm, but filled with pain. "Help," she whispered, her voice soft but heavy with meaning. Kale hesitated only for a moment, then lifted her carefully into his arms. The ruins around him seemed to grow darker, as if eyes were watching. He looked at the sky, and his heart tightened. Two small ships hovered in the cloud. Udas, scanning the ground with bright lights, searching for someone. He did not know if it was her, but he had no time to wait for answers. Carrying her, he ran back through the ruins, his boots kicking dust. He reached the hidden path where his small ship rested, a rusted but loyal craft that had carried him through battles and storms. He laid her inside, sealing the hatch, his hands moving fast, starting engines that groaned but obeyed. As the ship lifted, the scanners from above turned, catching sight of movement. A voice cracked through the comms, cold and sharp. "Unidentified vessel, stop at once." Kyle shut the comms and pushed the thrusters harder. Bolts of energy sliced the air behind him, burning the sky. Inside, the woman stirred, whispering in a tongue he did not understand. Symbols flashed across the ship's old computer, systems responding in ways they never had before. Kale stared, his brow tight. "Who are you?" he muttered. But she gave no answer, her eyes closing again. The chase grew wild, the enemy ships faster, stronger, weapons burning through the night sky. Kale twisted through canyons of rock, every move scraping the ship, every second a gamble. He had been a soldier. He had flown under fire before, but this felt different, heavier, because this time he was not just flying for himself, he was flying with someone else's life in his hands. After a storm of fire and smoke, his ship broke free of the atmosphere, engines screaming. The stars opened before him, endless and cold. The enemy ships still followed, their lights flashing like predators in the dark. Kale glanced at the woman, still unconscious, glowing wounds soft like starlight. He had no idea who she was, what she was, or why death itself was chasing her. But one thing he knew: he had made a choice the moment he lifted her from the ruins. Now her fate and his were tied together, whether he wanted it or not. The stars stretched out before him, full of danger, full of questions. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a truth he could not yet understand. This was no ordinary rescue, no random act of kindness. This was the beginning of something far greater, something that would shake the galaxy. Kyle looked at the stars, at the hunters still on his tail. He tightened his grip on the controls, a grim smile on his face. "Hold on, stranger," he whispered. "Whatever storm you brought with you, I guess I'm in it now." The ship roared into the dark, carrying them both toward a fate he could not yet see. But one day he would learn, he had not just saved a life, he had saved a ruler of empires, a commander of stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The rescue. Kale's ship cut through the black of space, engines roaring, the hull shaking under enemy fire. The hunters were fast, too fast for an old vessel like his. One wrong move and the ship would break apart. But Kale had danced with death before, and death had not taken him yet. Inside the cabin, alarms screamed, red lights painting the walls. The woman lay strapped to a seat, her wounds glowing faintly, her breath shallow but steady. Even in her weakness, her presence felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Kale stole a glance at her, muttering under his breath, "Who are you? And why are they willing to burn half the sky just to get you?" The enemy ships closed in, their weapons charging. Kale's hands moved fast over the controls, pulling the ship into a dive. Energy bolts seared past, one striking the wing, sparks filling the cockpit. The ship screamed but held. Kale cursed and twisted again, throwing the vessel between two fragments of an ancient asteroid ring. The hunters followed, sharp and precise. They weren't pirates, he realized. Their movements too disciplined, too clean. This was a trained kill squad, sent for one target only. Her. The woman stirred, her lips moving, whispering in a voice filled with strange weight. "Left," she said softly. Kyle turned the ship left without thinking, and a bolt of plasma that would have burned them alive missed by inches. His eyes widened. She was half conscious, yet she had known. Her eyes opened just slightly, glowing faintly like embers in the dark. "You must survive," she whispered, then fell silent again. Kale tightened his jaw. Survival was something he understood well, but with these hunters, survival meant more than skill. It meant luck. A missile locked onto the ship, its warning alarm cutting through the chaos. Kale yanked the ship downward into a canyon of shattered rock, the missile following like a hound. He twisted, turned, scraped against stone until sparks flew. At the last second he pulled up, the missile crashing into the rock behind them, exploding into fire. The blast pushed his ship forward like a wave, carrying them out of the canyon. Still, the hunters remained. Two sleek black ships sliding through the stars like knives. Kale gritted his teeth. His ship couldn't outrun them, couldn't outgun them. That left only one thing: outsmart them. He remembered a trick from the war, a move most pilots feared. He shut down the engines, the ship falling dead in space. To the hunters, it looked like a broken vessel. They slowed, moving in for the kill. Kale waited, fingers tense, every second stretching long. The woman's faint glow lit the cockpit, as if she too was holding her breath. The moment the hunters came close, Kale slammed the engines back to life. The ship lurched forward, spinning under their fire. He released the last of his decoy flares, flooding the space around them with burning light. Confused for a moment, the hunters fired blindly, hitting each other's shields. Kale dove through the chaos, using the explosion to break free. He flew hard into deep space, past the asteroid fields, past the ruins of forgotten stations. His heart pounded, his hands steady. For now, they had escaped. But Kale knew this was only the beginning. He turned to the woman, her head resting against the seat, her breath steadying. The glow around her wounds dimmed, as if her body was healing itself. Her skin shimmered faintly, not like a human, not like anything he had seen before. He wanted answers, but part of him feared the truth. He leaned closer, voice low. "Who are they? Why are they after you?" She opened her eyes, and for a moment, Kyle felt as though the entire galaxy stared back at him through those dark, endless depths. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, tired but certain. "They are nothing," she whispered, "compared to what is coming." Her words chilled him more than the void outside. Before Kale could ask again, the ship's sensors flared red. Not one, not two, but a fleet of signals lit the screen. Dozens of ships waiting ahead in the dark, silent like predators. Kale's stomach tightened. His escape had only led him into a trap. The woman sat up slowly, strength returning in her posture, though her die was still weak. Her hand touched the console, and the ship responded instantly, lights shifting, systems changing. Kale's eyes widened. His old vessel had never moved like this, never obeyed like this. Symbols glowed across the screen, foreign and ancient, yet alive. She looked at him with calm certainty. "Do not fear," she said. "They will not harm us." Kale stared at her, confusion and suspicion battling inside him. Who was this woman, lying near death one moment and commanding power the next? The fleet outside held steady, as if waiting. Kale felt the truth close like a shadow around him. He had not saved a helpless stranger. He had stepped into a storm far greater than any war he had fought. The void was silent, the hunters gone, the fleet waiting. Kale gripped the controls, but deep inside he knew this was not his fight anymore. This was hers. And yet, by saving her, he had made it his as well. The secret hints. The void was quiet now, too quiet. Kale's ship drifted between shadows of broken satellites and old wrecks, the kind of graveyard where forgotten wars had left their scars. The engines hummed low, hiding them from scanners, but Kale's heart beat fast. The memory of that fleet still burned in his mind. Ships that appeared out of nowhere, silent and waiting, then vanished without a fight. He looked at the woman strapped into the seat beside him. Her wounds were no longer bleeding. Instead, they glowed faintly like cooled metal, slowly knitting together without any medicine. She was resting, eyes closed, her breathing calm, as if nothing about their escape had disturbed her. Kale could not stand the silence anymore. "You need to tell me," he muttered, his voice rough. "Who are you, and why are they after you?" Her eyes opened, dark and endless, staring at him in a way that made him feel small. Instead of answering, she asked, "Why did you save me?" The question cut through him like a blade. He had no good answer, no reason that made sense. He could have left her there, let the hunters finish their work, but he hadn't. He had lifted her into his arms, carried her into his ship, fought to keep her alive. Why? Kale clenched his jaw. "Because you were dying," he said finally. She tilted her head slightly, studying him, as though weighing his soul. Then, for the first time, she smiled, faint and mysterious. "That is why," she whispered, "you were chosen." The words unsettled him. Chosen? By who? By what? Kale opened his mouth to demand answers, but then the ship shivered. A symbol flashed across the console. A glowing mark he had never seen before. Ancient, sharp, alive. He pulled his hands away, thinking it was a malfunction, but the ship's systems shifted, becoming faster, sharper, almost aware. The woman leaned forward, her fingers brushing over the glowing mark. At her touch, the entire console lit up, like the ship had been waiting for her all along. Kale stared in shock. "What did you just do?" She looked at him with calm certainty. "I woke it up." The ship's old rusted panels hummed with hidden power, new energy flowing through the circuits like veins. Kale had flown this vessel for years. He knew every dent, every scratch, every broken part. But now, it was something else, alive. Kale's hands shook on the controls. "This isn't possible." The woman leaned back, her eyes glowing faintly with the same light as the symbols. "It has always been possible. Human hands just never knew how to command it." The word sent a chill down his spine. She knew things, impossible things, and she spoke as if she had seen all of this before, as if none of it surprised her. The sensors lit again. This time no hunters, no fleet, but something worse. An incoming transmission, not from the enemy, but from the ship itself. A voice, deep and mechanical, filled the cabin, speaking in a language Kale did not understand. The woman closed her eyes, replying softly in the same tongue. The ship obeyed, adjusting its course without Kale's touch. Kale slammed a fist against the console. "This is my ship. I'm the one flying it." The woman turned to him, calm, unshaken. "No, Kale," she said softly. "This was never yours. It belongs to the stars and to me." Anger rose in his chest, mixed with fear. He had survived battles, fought men and machines, but nothing compared to this. He was sitting beside a stranger who could command not just soldiers, not just weapons, but machines older than he could imagine. And he had no idea why. As if sensing his doubt, she spoke again, her voice softer now. "I am not your enemy, Kale, but I cannot tell you everything yet. The more you know, the more danger follows." Her words were heavy, filled with truth and warning, but they only deepened the storm in his mind. The ship entered a quiet sector, a dark stretch of stars with no signals, no colonies, no stations. Here the silence felt heavier. Kale checked the scanners twice, but nothing appeared. Yet his instincts screamed. Then it happened. The lights of the ship flickered, the sensors blazed. From the darkness, a massive shadow emerged, a warship, black and endless, drifting with no engine burn. It should not have been there. It had not appeared on any radar until now. Kale's chest tightened, the woman's eyes fixed on the shadow, unblinking. "It begins," she whispered, almost to herself. Kale's grip on the controls tightened, his throat dry. What begins? He asked, his voice low. She turned to him, her expression calm, her eyes glowing brighter now. The storm that will decide if humanity rises or if it is erased. Kale stared at her, heart pounding. She was no refugee, no helpless stranger. She was something far more dangerous. And whether he liked it or not, he was part of it now. The black warship's lights flickered on, weapons charging. Kale felt the weight of fate pressing down on him. The woman reached out, placing her hand over his. Do not fear, Kale, she whispered. They came for me, not for you, but together they will learn to fear us both. The stars outside seemed to tremble, and Kale knew the real fight was only just beginning. The revelation. The black warship loomed ahead like a mountain drifting in space. Its surface was covered with scars of old battles, yet its weapons still glowed with lethal energy. Kale's hands tightened on the controls, but he knew his small ship was nothing against that monster. One shot, and he and the woman would be dust in the void. The woman's eyes remained fixed on the warship, calm, almost serene. Her wounds had healed more, the strange glow fading into smooth skin. Her voice was steady. They think power is measured in ships and guns, she whispered. But power is something greater. Kale's throat was dry. He had fought against overwhelming odds before, but this was different. This wasn't a battle. It was execution. His old soldier's instincts screamed, run, but there was nowhere to run. The warship's comms opened. A voice like iron filled the cockpit. Deliver the woman and you may live, human. Resist and you will be destroyed. Kale glanced at her, searching her face. She didn't flinch, didn't move. Instead, she closed her eyes. Then, something strange happened. The stars outside the cockpit shifted, not because of movement, but because hidden shapes revealed themselves. One by one, massive vessels emerged from the dark, their hulls glimmering with ancient symbols, not the hunters, not the enemy fleet. These ships bowed toward her. Kale's breath caught in his chest. Dozens of ships, larger than anything he had ever seen, surrounding them like silent guardians. His console lit up not with warnings but with signals of allegiance. The woman opened her eyes, glowing now with light like fire and starlight. They are mine, she said softly. They have always been mine. Kale could not find words. He had saved her thinking she was a victim, a refugee. But she was no lost wanderer. She was a ruler, commanding fleets that had slept in the dark, waiting for her voice. The black warship ahead fired its first warning shot, a beam of energy slicing past their hull. Kale's instincts kicked in, his hands moving fast on the controls, but she raised a hand, stopping him. Do not run, she said firmly. Watch. She spoke a single word in the language he could not understand. At once, the silent fleet around them came alive. Weapons hummed, shields ignited, engines burned like suns. The void was no longer quiet. It sang with power. The black warship prepared to fire again, but before it could, a storm of light cut across space. Her ships unleashed their fury, energy blasts tearing through the enemy vessel like paper. Explosions ripped across its hull, metal crumbling, flames consuming it. Kale shielded his eyes from the brilliance. When it was over, the warship was nothing more than debris scattered among the stars. Her fleet held position, silent once more, as if awaiting her next command. She lowered her hands slowly, her expression calm, almost sorrowful. Kale stared at her in disbelief, his voice rough. You could do this all along. Why hide it? Why let me risk my life for you? She turned to him, her gaze heavy but gentle. Because power means nothing without choice, Kale. I needed to see if you would save me when I was weak. Not because of armies, not because of crowns, but because of who I was. Her words struck him deeper than any weapon. Kale leaned back, trying to breathe, trying to understand. She rose from her seat, her body steady now, her presence filling the cabin like a tide. I am not just a woman, Kyle, she said softly. I am heir to a throne older than your world, commander of fleets hidden beyond stars, guardian of an empire beyond gold. Her voice carried weight, every word heavy with truth. And now, because you chose to save me, Your fate is bound to mine. Kale felt the walls close in around him. He had been a soldier, a drifter, nothing more than a man trying to survive. Now he was tied to something greater, something terrifying, an empire that could shake the galaxy, and at its heart was the woman he had carried from the ruins. The comms cracked again, new voices filling the cabin. Her generals, her commanders, voices filled with reverence. Empress, your orders? Kale's chest tightened, the word echoing in his mind. Empress. She did not answer them yet. Instead, she looked at him. Her eyes glowed like starlight, her voice soft but unbreakable. You saved me, Kale. Now the question is, will you stand with me? He had no answer, not yet. But as he looked at the endless fleet waiting outside, and at the fire in her gaze, he knew one thing: the galaxy would never be the same. The empire beyond gold, the stars stretched out around them. But Kyle no longer saw stars. He saw fleets, shadows of power, ships vast enough to swallow entire cities. They hovered in silence, waiting, their weapons dormant but their presence heavy. All of them answered not to kings, not to governments, but to the woman sitting beside him. Kale's chest tightened. He had carried her from broken ruins, thinking she was fragile. Now he saw her as something else entirely. Not fragile, not weak, but endless. And yet, as she stood in the dim light of the cabin, she was still the same woman he had chosen to save. An empire beyond gold, she said softly, her voice carrying, wait. You asked who I am, Kale. Now you must know. She raised her hand, and the ship's console projected images into the air. Not maps, not battles, but entire galaxies. Stars flickered across the cabin like diamonds, connected by lines of light. Gold, jewels, power. These are things humans kill each other for, she whispered. But what I own cannot be measured in such things. I own worlds, Kale, and I own loyalty, the kind that bends the fate of civilizations. Kale stared at the holograms, his mouth dry. Worlds shifted before his eyes, each marked with symbols, each alive with light. He saw fleets the size of nations, armies that could march across entire planets, and at the center of it all, her. You mean to tell me, Kale muttered, his voice rough, that all this belongs to you? She looked at him, her gaze calm. It belongs to no one, Kyle. I do not own it as one owns treasure. I carry it. I guide it. But without the people, without the stars themselves, it is nothing. Her humility unsettled him more than her power, because true rulers did not need to boast. She was not trying to impress him. She was showing him truth. Kale leaned back, shaking his head. You should have left me out of this. I'm no emperor, no leader. I'm just a soldier who lost his wars. Her voice was steady, sharp. You saved me when you had no reason to. That makes you more than any emperor I have ever known. Before Kale could answer, the console blinked red. A transmission cut through the silence, a face appearing in the hologram. It was a man, sharp eyes, armored, his voice dripping with venom. So the lost empress returns, he sneered, and already she hides behind broken soldiers. Kale's blood ran cold. This man was not some mercenary. He spoke like a rival, like someone who had tried to erase her. The woman did not flinch, her tone calm. You should have stayed in the shadows, Malik, she said. Kale looked at her in shock. She knew him, and her voice carried no fear, only certainty. The man's face twisted with rage. The throne will never be yours. Your fleets are relics. Your people will betray you. But even as he spoke, Kyle noticed something in his eyes. Doubt, because outside her fleets waited, silent but unbroken. The hologram cut off, leaving silence behind. Kale gripped the controls tighter. You're telling me you're not only an empress, but you have enemies like that coming for you? She turned to him, her voice low but powerful. Yes, Kale. Enemies who would burn galaxies to stop me. And now, because you chose to save me, they will come for you too. Kale felt the weight of her words like iron. He had always lived as a drifter, one man against the void. Now he was tied to wars he could not imagine, to empires that spanned stars. Part of him wanted to walk away, to run as far as possible. But another part, the soldier part, burned with something else. He had seen her power, yes, but he had also seen her weakness. And in that weakness, she had trusted him. He met her gaze, his voice rough but steady. "What do you want from me?" She smiled faintly, though her eyes held sorrow. "Not your fear, not your obedience. I want only what you gave me when you carried me from the ruins, your choice." Her fleets remained outside, endless, waiting for her command. But in that moment, Kale realized it wasn't her armies that gave her strength. It was something else, something human. And somehow, she had chosen him to stand beside her. The stars outside shimmered, as if holding their breath. And Kale knew the war for empires beyond gold had already begun, and he was no longer just a drifter. He was standing on the edge of history. The choice. The stars were quiet again, but Kyle felt no peace. Inside the cabin, the hum of the engines was the only sound, yet it felt as if the weight of entire galaxies pressed down on him. The woman, no, the Empress, stood before him, calm, steady, her eyes glowing faintly. Like the light of 1,000 suns, she had shown him fleets, worlds, enemies who would burn everything to stop her. Now she was asking him to decide. "Kyle," her voice was soft but heavy, "you saved me when I was nothing but broken flesh and fading light. Now I ask you, will you stand with me, not as soldier, not as servant, but as the one who chose when no one else would?" Her words cut into him deeper than any blade. He had fought wars before, but they had never asked for his heart, only his weapon. Now this woman, this Empress, was offering him something else. A place beside her in a storm that could swallow stars. Kale leaned against the controls, his jaw tight. He thought of his past, battlefields soaked with fire, comrades buried under stone and dust, orders from commanders who never cared. He had sworn never to follow anyone again, never to fight for thrones or flags, and yet here he was, staring at someone who carried all of that and more. "Why me?" Kale asked, his voice rough. "You have armies, you have generals, men and women who would die for you. Why ask me?" She stepped closer, her presence filling the cabin like a tide. "Because they follow duty, Kyle, but you chose without duty, you chose without gain, and that makes you rare, rarer than gold, rarer than crowns." Her hand hovered above the console and the fleets outside shifted, aligning into patterns like stars forming constellations. Kale watched the display, endless power bending to her will, and he felt smaller than ever. How could one man matter in this sea of might? But her eyes stayed on him, not on the fleets, not on the stars, on him. Before he could speak, the comms cracked with a new voice, sharp and venomous. It was Malik again, the rival who had challenged her claim. "You speak of loyalty, but your empire is fragile," his voice hissed. "Your fleets bow today, but tomorrow they will betray you, and your human pet will not save you." Kale's fists clenched, anger burning inside him. He was no one's pet, no one's pawn. But Malik's words struck true. Kale was only one man, a drifter, nothing compared to the weight of empires. The Empress's gaze never wavered. "Do not listen to him," she said firmly. "His strength is fear, and fear is the chain of the weak." Her voice was steady, but Kale saw something behind her calm, a flicker of vulnerability. She needed him to choose, not because of power, but because of what he represented. Kale looked out the viewport at the endless fleets waiting in silence. He thought of the life he could return to, drifting, scavenging, surviving on scraps, alone. It would be safe, maybe, but it would be nothing. And then he thought of her, the woman he had carried from the ruins, the one who whispered help with her last breath. She was no longer weak, but that moment still bound them. His chest rose and fell with heavy breath. Finally, Kyle spoke, his voice low but certain. "If I do this, if I stand with you, there's no going back." She nodded once, her eyes burning brighter. "Then do not look back, Kyle. The stars are not meant for those who walk backwards." Silence stretched, thick and heavy. Then Kale rose from his seat, stepping closer until he stood face to face with her. "I don't care about crowns. I don't care about thrones," he said, his voice steady now. "But I care about choices, and I already made mine when I pulled you out of that ruin. So yes, Empress, I'll stand with you." For the first time, she smiled. Not faint, not mysterious, but real, sharp with power and soft with gratitude. Then together, she whispered, we will shake the stars. The comms erupted with the voices of her commanders, hailing, swearing loyalty. The fleets outside lit up, engines blazing, weapons ready, as if the galaxy itself had felt the choice Kale had made. But before Victory could breathe, the scanners flared red again. Kale's stomach dropped as dozens of new signals appeared. Not hers, not Malik's. Something worse. The Empress's smile faded, her expression turning grave. They come sooner than I expected, she whispered. Kale frowned. Who? Her eyes darkened, glowing faintly with fire. Not rivals, not rebels. The real enemy, the ones who would end humanity itself. The stars outside flickered with the arrival of a new fleet, ships like shadows, their designs alien and merciless. The void trembled under their approach. Kale's choice had been made, but now he would face the weight of it. For standing with her meant standing against nightmares that had slept in the dark for too long. The Empress turned to him, her voice sharp, commanding, yet carrying warmth only he had heard. Stay with me, Kale, for what comes now will test us both. Kyle tightened his grip on the console, his voice steady. I already said yes. The fleets clashed in the distance, light against shadow, and the war for the stars began. The new dawn, the void burned with light. Her fleets spread across the stars like fire, engines glowing, weapons alive. But against them the new enemy rose. Ships darker than shadow, shapes that did not belong to human design. Their forms bent the light around them, and their silence carried terror more than any roar of guns. Kale stared at the scanners, his heart pounding. These were not pirates, not rival warlords, not even Malik's traitors. This was something else, something older, something alien. The Empress's voice broke the silence, steady but grave. They were hidden, waiting for my return. Now they come to finish what they began. Kale turned to her, confusion sharp in his eyes. You knew about them? Her gaze stayed fixed on the approaching fleet, her voice heavy. I feared it, Kale. They are the reason my empire slept, the reason I hid in shadows. They are the end of worlds. I feared it, Kyle. They are the reason my empire slept, the reason I hid in shadows. They are the end of worlds. The alien fleet moved without sound, no hails, no warnings, only the cold intent of destruction. One by one, their weapons charged, glowing with light not like fire but like the tearing of reality itself. Her fleets held formation, loyal, waiting for her command. But even Kale could see it. They were outnumbered. The Empress raised her hand, her voice sharp. Form the shield line, protect the core worlds. Her commanders obeyed instantly, fleets shifting into walls of light. Kale felt the weight of her command. It was not just orders. It was destiny speaking. The first strike came. Alien beams cut through space, slamming against her shields, tearing holes through smaller vessels. Explosions blossomed like suns, pieces of ships scattering into the dark. Kale's throat tightened. This was not a war. It was annihilation. He gripped the controls, his voice rough. Tell me what to do. She turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter now, her face lit with the fire of determination. You stay by me, Kale. No matter what happens, you stay. The alien ships advanced, silent and merciless. Kale's ship shook as blasts slammed close, the hull groaning under pressure. He twisted through the storm, instincts carrying him where logic failed. She spoke words in the ancient tongue, symbols flashing across the console, and once again, the old vessel moved like it had been reborn. Weapons Kale had never seen before lit up from its frame. Bolts of pure light tore across the void, ripping through alien shadows. Kale's eyes widened as the ship fought like a predator unleashed. This ship, it was never mine, he muttered. The Empress's voice was soft but fierce. It was waiting for us, Kyle, for this moment. Yet still the enemy came. For every alien ship destroyed, two more emerged, endless, merciless. Her fleets faltered, lines breaking, soldiers screaming through comms. Malik's mocking voice returned on the open channels. You see, Empress, even your golden fleets fall. Humanity cannot stand against this. Surrender and end your pride. Kale's fists clenched, anger burning. He shouted back into the comm, his voice like thunder. She's not alone, and neither is humanity. His words echoed through the channel, carried to every ship in her fleet. A silence followed, then voices answered, commanders, soldiers, captains, swearing they would not fall. Her fleets reformed, stronger, united. The Empress looked at Kale, something fierce in her eyes. You gave them hope, she whispered, and hope is stronger than any crown. The battle raged on, fire against shadow, light against darkness. Kale flew through the chaos, his hands steady, her voice guiding, their ship tearing paths through the enemy. Still, the aliens pressed forward, endless, tireless. Then, in the distance, Kale saw it. A massive shape, larger than all others. Emerging from the dark, an alien mothership. A fortress that blotted out stars. Its weapons glowed with light enough to erase worlds. Kale's heart stopped. How do we fight that? The Empress's gaze hardened, her hand glowing with the same light as her fleets. We don't fight it with guns, Kale. We fight it with something greater. She placed her hand over his, her voice low. When you saved me, you chose more than survival. You chose belief. Now believe again. Symbols spread across the console, brighter, sharper, alive with power. The ship trembled, engines screaming as if reaching beyond their limits. The alien mothership prepared to fire, energy gathering like a sun ready to burst. Kale felt the air thicken, his breath heavy. The Empress closed her eyes, whispering words older than stars, and the fleets answered, not with weapons but with unity. Their lights merging, their energy feeding into hers. The mothership released its beam, a torrent of destruction racing toward them. Kale shouted, pulling the controls, but she held steady, her voice rising. Hold, Kale, hold. Their ship glowed brighter, brighter than the beam itself, until the void blazed with light, then silence. When the light cleared, the alien weapon was gone, shattered against a shield not of metal, but of will. Her fleets roared in victory, their voices filling the comms. Kale gasped, his hands shaking. She opened her eyes, her voice soft. This is only the beginning. The alien mothership retreated into the shadows, its fleet withdrawing with it. Not defeated, not destroyed, but waiting. Kale slumped back, his chest rising and falling, his voice hoarse. They'll be back. She nodded slowly, her eyes burning with fire. Yes, Kale, and when they return, humanity must be ready, and you will be at my side when that day comes. Kale met her gaze, and for the first time he did not see a stranger or even just an empress. He saw destiny, and he knew he was part of it now. The stars shimmered, fleets surrounding them, waiting for her next word. But the silence after battle was heavy, a silence full of promises. A new dawn had come, not of peace, not yet, but of war, of unity, of the choice to stand. And as the screen faded to dark, one truth remained. This was not the end. It was only the first step.